I don't think that many people can receive good quality business information if there isn't a fertile mindset, if you will, to receive it, because there's blockage. How many of you guys were at our mastermind that we did in Denver? I see a lot of you there. Tanya, right? About 10 of you or so. Remember how much time we spent on that first day? Had a couple people break down, had some people release some, I guess, excess baggage, right? Isn't it interesting that when you get past that, it's almost like there's blockage, then all of a sudden the business training starts to stick more? CEOs know that. CEOs know that darn well. It's the culture they create within their businesses. It's the culture they create within their companies. And they're personal development-driven people. They are input and output people. So short-term entrepreneurs and short-term CEOs, they're all about output. They're always working their tail off, 10 hours a day. They're always wearing the amount of hours they work on their sleeve like it's a victory. It's admirable, but they're not doing a whole lot of input. I know that's a short-term player when a really successful CEO or affiliate is all about output, and then I say, what book are you reading? And they say, I haven't read a book in 2 years. I know that dude is on a short-term rise up, because readers are leaders and leaders are readers, and CEOs know that. Matter of fact, just yesterday morning, I'm a big CNBC guy. I think it's part of my financial background. I have CNBC on all the time, maybe too much. But hey, listen, I'd rather like have CNBC on my phone giving me push notifications than who ate what for breakfast on Facebook. So I'll wear the CNBC thing on my sleeve all day long because, and I'll get to that in a minute. Tanya, I saw we had a little online conversation about the whole Facebook feed thing. I'm going to come back to that. But Bill Gates said for as long as he can remember, he's read a book a week, 50 a year. Maybe he takes 2 weeks off. He deserves it, I guess. He's like worth how much? But he reads a book a week. A book a week. Now today, you would agree that reading a book a week is super simple because we could listen to a book a week while you're getting ready in the morning, while you're making food, while you're at the gym. I mean, you could easily knock out a book a week by audio. It gets a little more difficult with reading because you have to sit down and do it, but every single big-time CEO I know, they're big-time readers or listeners of content. They're always taking in because guess what? The more you take in, the more efficient you are at putting out, right? Because knowledge is power, right? So how many of you are readers? How many of you consider yourself readers? Honestly, readers. Not I read 2 books in 2016 type of reader, right? Meaning you read consistently, religiously, yes? How many of you, and be honest, right? You're only lying to yourself if you don't answer the question. How many of you don't read at all? Does that mean you don't listen either? Nothing, so there's no input, right? So the little lesson for you guys that admit that is if there's no input, there's a piece missing from this whole mindset component, right? No input means probably not so great, not so efficient output, okay? So that's a big, and then training and events. These guys don't sit behind their desk at their computers running companies, never leaving. They're out meeting people, they're at events, they're networking, they're speaking. This is what CEOs do. So just by you guys being here is a CEO behavior. But by being at all the events, it's even more of a CEO behavior. But by going to events that aren't just our events, this is what CEOs do. They get out and about and they meet and they're always training their mind, okay? Here is an important point as well when it comes to CEOs, is they watch their language. How many of you were told growing up, watch your language? Geez, don't say that, right? As kids, watch your language. But they speak the language of success, not the language of failure. Employees, and no disrespect to employees, employees have, not all employees, but the majority of employees are employees because they've sort of built this language around themselves that keeps them stuck in a job that they're probably not happy with, making an income that they're probably worth way more, right? So their language is absolutely critical. They expect success. They expect success. CEOs don't wake up in the morning and expect to fail. They don't wake up in the morning and expect to fail in a negotiation. They don't wake up in the morning and expect to fail in a conversation. Every single decision they make, they expect to succeed. They have expectant language, right? Now, a lot of us are unconsciously expecting everything not to work out. We're actually wired as human beings to think that every decision we make is probably going to be a bad one, right? I mean, how many of you feel like, geez, every time I turn around, I'm making a horrible decision? How many of you feel like Murphy's Law just lives in your bones and DNA? You guys are being, really? That many of you think that? A lot of times, it isn't true. It's that you're subconsciously expecting something not to work out, a decision, an action. And I'm telling you that if you shift this and start expecting your decisions to work out, not dipping your big toe in the water all the time, but really going all in and expecting success, you'll be amazed at what starts happening, right? So, there's this analogy I give on hope versus intention, right? I find that really successful entrepreneurs and CEOs, they're not hopeful, they're intentional, right? Hope is not a strategy. I find people hoping in this industry a lot. I hope I can do it. I just hope I can make some sales. I just hope I can get to that event. I just hope I can have some success. How many of you have ever caught yourself talking that way? A lot of you, right? But not many are thinking, well, geez, I just made a decision to be part of this company and get to this event. I'm intending it to work. I intend for it to work out. I intend to go there and get a lot out of it. I intend to go there and meet the right people. I intend to come back and really be successful. I intend to come back and have a better schedule. I intend to come back and be way more productive. I intend to come back and handle my money differently. I intend to come back and be a master marketer. There's not a whole lot of that talk in the human mind. So there's some paradigm shifts that have to take place for all of you, like right here, right now, in the next 56 minutes. 56 minutes. We have to make some paradigm shifts for any of the real specific content we're going to give starting this afternoon into all day tomorrow and into Sunday morning, for any of it to stick. And the first thing that has to happen is we need to build a schedule and a philosophy around ourselves as the CEOs of our enterprise. And it all, again, starts with you realizing that you have an enterprise and that this is an enterprise. And I don't care if you're a one-man show, like some of you are an enterprise. Okay, you are your own brand. You might be new, and that's okay, but you are an enterprise in the making. So you're intentional about everything that it is that you do. You're not hopeful. You're intentional. Does it make sense? You guys with me here? So a lot of this is tough at first, because you say to yourself, well, that all sounds good, Andrew, but how do I do that intentional thing? How do I not be as hopeful but be more intentional? And it starts with awareness. You have to really be conscious in the moment. This is one of the big reasons why I feel, and you've heard me talk about this on my Friday call, and I think a lot of you admitted you were on that call, that you got to avoid as many distractions as you can, and you got to really be careful with social media, because you know what happens when you continue to stimulate? This is input now, but there's good input and bad input, right? We talked about input a second ago. You have to be really careful about the amount of input that comes in from multiple different sources, because your brain isn't the size of a basketball. It's this big. And it can only handle so much input before the output starts becoming weak and tired, right? So when you're constantly getting pulled in a million different directions with news and media and Facebook and messaging and who's doing what in family, you don't really have the output muscle to produce results, because the input is just wearing you down. It's zapping your energy big time. So CEOs are super conscious of what comes in, and they're also really conscious of not being distracted. Right? They hate, let me go back, I want to get to this in a second. They hate being distracted. Let me go back one more here. Here we go. They hate being distracted because they know it hurts their output. So there's good input and bad input.